we are good to start. Let's start, guys. So cool, apologies for the delay. As you know, so I was facing some technical challenge here. So apologies for the delay, guys. Just setting up some screen here. Okay, so I think we're good to start. So today we will be talking about the ML Netflix problem statement. So we'll be talking about how machine learning is now going to be used in some of the other industries, and a prime use case which we will be talking about today is, so we will try to understand how Netflix has been using the concepts of machine learning to enrich the business of Netflix, and what are the major key areas, the key indexes which Netflix is focusing around, so that we can optimize our machine learning concepts on top of it. So let's pretty much understand how it is done. So that's going to be the agenda for today, guys. So let's get started. So before starting, my name is Arpit Jain, and the reason I am here because data science is my passion. And I really like sharing my expertise with people. So where I have around 9+ years of industrial experience. And also I've been into teaching for quite some time. So I always like to share my expertise. So I really talk to students regarding their career, jobs, perspective, so anything. So that's pretty much who I am. And the reason I'm here because I would really like to share what I've been seeing around in the industries. So on that note, let's get started. So today we will be talking about the ML, the machine learning part, the Netflix use case, guys. So that's what the agenda for today is. So we will be talking about how Netflix is actually using the machine learning concepts. So just to revise what we have studied so far in machine learning. So what is a machine learning concept? So machine learning, we talked about learning of machines. So first, very important part is learning of machines. Correct? So I can actually ask machine to do any task, but that task is going to define what business I'm going to solve, what problem statement I'm going to work on, right? And that is where the Netflix comes into picture. So Netflix, respective to Netflix, I will be solving a very specific problem statements which Netflix might has interest in, right? So a lot of data backing, a lot of analysis which Netflix or any other industry does in the background to identify the right set of information, and so that they can take some sort of data backed strategic decision to help their business grow. So ultimate aim of any industry is to get money, to gain money, to get their business going. That's what the agenda of any business is, right? And that is where also Netflix comes into picture. So we talk about how we are going to use Netflix, on how Netflix is using the data or the machine learning concept to have the problems solved respective to its own ecosystem. And that is where what the agenda of today is. We will be discussing around how and what are the problem statements which Netflix focuses on, and how it leverages the data which it has and how it works on top of it. So before beginning, so again, good quote from data science. So data is the new science, guys, and big data holds the answers. It's a very strong word. So we have been hearing data. So guys, honestly speaking, data was always there. Since the very early days, data was always there. But now what has changed? What has changed is the capability to process this data, to store this data, to manipulate this data. So the respective tools, the science, the techniques have evolved around the ecosystem of data. And that is where now the industries are understanding the importance of data, what we are seeing now these days. And the science which is evolving around this is data science. So going forward in any business, data is the one where the companies are putting more focus on. So instead of taking any irrespective decisions, they're trying to take a decision which is backed by some information in the background or some data in the background. And for that, big data will be the one which is going to hold the answers. What do we have? So that's pretty much what are we looking at. So data is the new science, and big data, the enormous amount of data, holds the answers for any respective business. Any problem statement, any business, that is where we're going to talk about it. And that is definitely, Netflix is one of those companies or the organization where we are talking about the big data and then how exactly data is changing the entire business module for any organization, where Netflix is one of them. So, but before that, let's try to quickly understand a quick recap of what machine learning we were talking about. So machine learning, it includes a section of AI or artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a part of machine learning. So we already discussed about artificial intelligence. Two parts of my artificial intelligence, we talked about it. First, narrow AI, or also called as weak AI. And second, we're talking about strong AI. So these are the two broad aspects of artificial intelligence. So narrow AI is the one where machine learning falls into place. That is again one section of my AI, not the entire AI. So when I say narrow AI or weak AI, that is where we're talking about solving one single problem statement. I'm not talking about solving everything at the same time. No, we're talking about one single problem statement, and that is where machine learning comes into picture. So we always talk about whether the person is having cancer or not, or what is going to be the price of my house or whatnot, right? So we're talking about one problem statement, or that is where machine learning comes into picture. And within the machine learning, deep learning is a subpart. We have already understood that. So deep learning is again set of few specific algorithms or protocols that is subjective to solve again certain set of problem statements within machine learning part. And in machine learning, what is my objective? So objective is to learn the data and give meaningful business outcomes. So objective is always to learn and give meaningful business outcomes. What do we mean by that? So in any industry, we have enormous amount of data floating around, right? So there is no limitations of data. But in machine learning, the objective is to learn the data which is available. And from those learning from the data, we are expected to provide some meaningful business outcomes. That's pretty much what the machine learning is. So objective is pretty straightforward. We're talking about learning the data, and from those learning, we're trying to give some meaningful business outcomes. That is what we're looking at, right? And this learning process includes the pattern recognition, which includes the ability to recognize the patterns in data. What do we mean by pattern recognition? So I was giving you that example the other day. So we have, when we go to the doctor for any particular, disease or something, so we have the symptoms. And based on these symptoms, doctor is able to relate, okay, if you have symptom 1, symptom 2, symptom 3, you might have a disease XYZ, right? So how it is happening? So basically, the doctor establishes the relationship, the pattern between the symptoms and my disease. And how is able to develop that pattern? He has some kind of learning in the background, right? That's what he has been specialized on. And similarly, the machine is going to be learning the similar set of patterns on what? On again certain set of information, certain piece of data, whether it is qualitative or quantitative. But On this, the objective would be to identify the patterns, recognize the patterns, establish the relationship from what kind of ecosystem I have, and from this, what is my output. That is where the pattern recognition comes. So objective of this machine learning includes my pattern recognitions, identifying what do we have here. And the patterns should be trained to show the output in the desirable manner. So whatever my output is, whether I'm looking at a class or whether I'm looking at a number or whether I'm looking at a group, my training should be done and the pattern should be respectively, the relationship should be established in such a way that the pattern which I have ultimately going to lead to the output in desirable manner which we are looking at. That's pretty much what we talked about the machine learning. But now let's understand how Netflix is actually leveraging the concept of data analysis or machine learning. Few interesting facts, guys. We'll have a quick discussion on all of these. Netflix, it has a very impressive customer retention rate of 90%. So Netflix, compared to its other vendors, what is Netflix? First of all, Netflix is an online over-the-air a platform where you can watch the respective content, right? So like, for example, whether a movie or a web series, so you are going to watch some content on this platform, Netflix. But Netflix is not the only platform. It has there are a lot of other platforms as well, which are providing similar services like Netflix, like Amazon Prime. We have a lot of other places also, Disney Hotstar, a lot of other such platforms. But interestingly, Netflix is the one where it has the impressive customer retention rate of 90%, where in average, what we have observed from the statistical data available, the average is around 65 to 70% for other platforms. So how come Netflix is having the higher customer retention rate? It is purely linked with data analytics, which is used by Netflix in the background. It's trying to capture some information based on the users, trying to give you more personalized touch. We'll talk about that in detail anyway, but this retention rate is completely linked by data analytics in the background. I'll tell you very interesting a part also of the Netflix. So Netflix tries to capture even the smallest of my information. Like for example, if you're watching something, like suppose you are watching maybe a comedy series, right? And like a stand-up comedy, and you might have paused at some place, you might have rewind, and then you might have watched the same content again, right? So even this sort of minute information is getting captured by Netflix. So they're trying to optimize, they're trying to understand your intent. So what kind of content you're more interested in. Or I'll give you one more interesting example. If you're watching a horror movie and suppose you paused at say 45th minute 37th second, right? You pause at that second because it is too scary for you to watch, right? So yes, even that information is getting captured. So the Netflix knows, okay, so you're not very, into this content. So trying to capture your even the smallest behavior on the platform. And by doing this, Netflix is able to understand what is your behavior. So it is able to capture some really useful insights regarding the users every now and then. And with the help of this useful informations, Netflix is actually trying to personalize the things which you are seeing on the screen for you. So the things which you are seeing right now on your screen on Netflix, definitely others will not be seeing this. And this is not only a simple methodology. So yes, generating recommendations is done by multiple platforms as well. But the kind of logic, the kind of information, the kind of insights Netflix gathers to generate those recommendations is tremendous. Capturing every single minute information and then processing it with the content which was getting delivered, processing it from the data what we had, that's tremendous. That is where, with the help of analytics, Netflix is able to create some really cool, interesting, useful insights based on each customers. And that is where Netflix has an edge, how exactly things are happening in Netflix. Lot of other interesting aspects which you might see about Netflix. So one of them is having the personalized recommendation, personalized movie recommendation. Everyone would have seen this already, like, on your screen you are having this personalized recommendation. So there are multiple aspects of it. I'll tell you. So first is, we talk about user mapping. Second, we talk about product mapping. Third, we talk about user to product association. So what are these three things? Let's try to understand it. So whenever any platform is recommending any content to you, they're trying to look around these three topics in the background: a user mapping, a product mapping, or the user to product association. So me being a user, I have certain characteristics, right? For example, I've told you, by capturing the smallest information, like I paused at 45th minute 37 second for this horror movie. So yes, my trait shows that I'm not very up with the scary movies. Or if my trait shows that I'm watching, maybe rewinding the the stand-up comedy punchline again, and then I'm watching it again. So that's my trait. That's my pattern of watching, right? So likewise, I have certain demographic informations as well. When I say demographic information, I talk about my age, my gender, my locality, my user profile, my social media profile. So a lot of other things that's comprises of my user. So there's a whole set of user portfolio which has a lot of different characteristics. So what happens is, I'm user one. I might have certain traits, and this trait might map to some other pool of my users. And that's where concept of user segmentations comes into picture. So we were already discussing about the clustering approach. Simple method could be clustering, but again, there are a lot of other advanced methods as well. But the objective behind doing a user mapping is, so me being user one, I have certain traits. So who all are my other users on my platform who belong or who demonstrate the similar traits? You're getting my point? So who all are other users on my platform who are demonstrating the similar traits? That's where user mapping comes into picture, right? So user mapping is very important for my recommendation. So every user, they ultimately belong to a group or a pool of users who are demonstrating my similar traits. That's where I am getting mapped with 100 other users who are having similar traits. And again, lot of methodologies could be used. So clustering is one of those methods, the primitive ones. There are a lot of advanced associative, collaborative filtering, a lot of things are there. So a lot of fancy things are there, which we will be learning with time. But the core objective is, I am trying to map every user to other n set of users who are demonstrating something sort of similar trend. That's what user mapping talks The second, what do we know, is product mapping. So what happens in this product mapping is a stand-up comedy content. What are my similar contents, like similar genre, similar era, or my age, my length, my duration, my artists, lot of different factors, right? So maybe I could say that a show like say Game of Thrones, for example, cannot be clubbed with a comedy show. They two are too far apart shows, right? So ultimately my content, the product is basically my content here. So for the first place, I mapped each of my user to certain pool of my users. Now here in the product mapping phase, we're trying to map my product with multiple other products. So after user mapping, we talk about product mapping, right? Similarly, for example, if I say user 1 is belonging to a group, a pool of users, which is pool A, and inside pool A, I have 100 users. So I am similar to those 100 users. That's my first aspect. Second aspect is my product mapping. So suppose product P1 is belonging to a pool of certain products, which is having a pool B, and that from that pool B, which has say 100 other products. So the product P1 is similar to 100 other products, which is there in pool B. That's where two set of mappings comes into picture: user mapping, product mapping. Now the most critical part, which is user to product association. So what happens here is, so let me open a new slide and let me show you what exactly the complexity arises here. Yeah, okay. So what we have here is, when we talk about in terms of data, so when we talk about now having the user mapping and then now having the product mapping, so how exactly things changes? So how exactly we talk about the details of my analysis? So when I talk about the parts of my data, when I talk about how exactly this could be used, so now we talk about two things. First is my user mapping. So in this, what happens? User 1, it belongs to a pool, which is pool A, and this pool A has 100 other users. So user 101 till user 102 until 200, right? So I have this pool of 100 users who are demonstrating similar trend to my user 1. Now, second aspect is we talk about product. So my product P1, and it belongs to pool B, and again it has multiple different products, product 101 till product 200. I have again 100 other products. Now let's try to understand. Suppose a user 1 has watched a content, say, or say product P1. So since user 1 is having similar traits with 101 and 200, and suppose 101 has watched product P2 and user 200 has watched product P3, so yes, P1 now can be linked with either P2 or P3 based on my user profile. But again, we're going to talk about P1. P1 has a linkage with 100 and 200. So there is a pool of multiple options based on my user profile, what all content that user has watched, and also each product is linked with what all products. So it's more like a permutation combination which is happening here. Lot of different options for each single user when I'm trying to watch a product or a content on Netflix. And that is where a concept of associative collaborative filtering comes into picture. We are not going to talk about that concept in detail, but again, there is a machine learning concept which tries to score which of the content is more relatable to my users. And that is where both of these approaches are very crucial, the user mapping and also my product mapping. So based on the respective users to individual products, it is getting identified if I have watched a product P1, what could be my personalized recommendation according to my profile. And that is completely backed by the user mapping and the content which is backed by the product mapping. So both of them are equally important. And that is where the third part comes into picture of my user to product mapping. And then you're gonna find out what exactly what exactly my recommendation would be in this case. Cool. So that is what we talk about, how things work in machine learning part in respectively part. So that is what we look at, and that is what my data. Looks like I got disconnected for a while. Okay. So apologies, guys. So yeah, so what I was saying is now we have this personalized recommendations coming up. So in this personalized recommendation, that's where we talk about the part of my movie recommendation. So movie recommendation, that is going to be based on my user mapping. First, second, product mapping. Third, user to product association. That's what we look at, the three things: user mapping, product mapping, and user to product association. Now, the second thing is very important. You talk about Netflix, the customer segmentation, and thus high conversions. So the people who have not yet subscribed also to Netflix, what Netflix does, it tries to target the right audience so that there is a high chance of my conversions as well. Conversion, by that we mean the subscription. Again, doing the right set of customer segmentation backed by the data, understanding the customer behavior, understanding the smallest patterns from that trial period, and giving them the right information, giving them the right details of the product. Make sure that there's a high chance of conversion. Again, completely backed by my data analysis. Within this, very interestingly, I think everybody would have seen this also, the subscription packages as per need. I think most of us have seen now Netflix have started rolling out a very affordable package for specifically Indian market. That is, I think, for 149 bucks a month for mobile only. And it is only available for Indian market, not available anywhere else. Again, how exactly Netflix identified that what is the need of my users? So what Netflix did in this case, Netflix understood that yes, most or not most, I would say, there are good bunch of people who are watching the content on their mobile phone while they are traveling, while they're commuting, or maybe on a leisure period also, so quick access. So Netflix has observed the usages patterns of its product on the platform, and that is Netflix observed that there are a lot of people who are actually watching the content on mobile phone. And that is why Netflix came up with a very fantastic idea that why not roll out a plan which is specific for the mobile users. A subscription package which is very affordable, completely not available in anywhere else in the market. That is where we talk about personalizing the delivery patterns, personalizing the content personalizing the feel of the platform for every single customer. Again, one of the very strong points where it is able to target the right audience by providing them what they actually need, thus leading to high conversions. Not even this, also Netflix has on-demand content creations. Netflix has its own group of people who are creating the content for Netflix. I mean, you must be aware of Netflix own content. Be it from production housing a complete movie or a complete web series, you might be seeing a content which is completely created by Netflix, only available on Netflix. So Netflix owned content. So yes, by understanding what is the market feeling, by understanding the sentiments of its people, what kind of shows are more watched, what kind of what kind of things people are loving in their ecosystem. So the respective regions, the regions wise, Netflix is able to come up with the content which is more popular in the respective areas. And that is where the Netflix has its own content creator team, which is developing the content owned by Netflix. That is what, again, we talk about being on the upper edge of the part of the Netflix side. So that is how Netflix is able to take some strategic decisions completely backed by some sort of data analysis in the background. And that is where, again, Netflix has definitely an upper edge where it is leveraging the information, the data which it has from the pool of its customers and providing them exactly what they want at the right time. And that is where Netflix is able to retain its majority of its people with having 90% of retention rate and giving them the right set of personalized recommendation by capturing the smallest of its information and giving them the right thing at the right time with the perfect content they're looking for. That is what Netflix is for you guys. So I've tried to capture few interesting trends also. So I'm going to show you that. So some of the very interesting insights. So on Netflix, the 3 most frequent countries have been highlighted here. The top 10 countries based on the content which the Netflix are providing. So can you see this? USA, the most prolific producers of content for Netflix are primarily USA, India, and the UK. Right? So yes, it makes official sense also because the most number of content which is coming up on Netflix is prominently for US, making more sense because after all it's a US company, followed by India. Can you see this? So India is again producing Netflix owned content a lot, where the market is completely dynamic. The market, the sense of the market, that's what Netflix is trying to read. And based on this information, based on what the user patterns and the behavior, the sentiments of my people, the Netflix is able to come up with the content, and India is right there. So after US, India is one of those countries where the content which is getting created is the second most after the US. So that is where again India comes into picture, followed by UK, and then we have the respective other countries where we have seen the right set of contents which are getting produced on Netflix, owned by Netflix, produced by Netflix. So US, top 3 are US, India, UK, followed by others respectively. Also some interesting insights. So this is about the top 10 countries movie and the TV show split. So there are prominent two categories of content which we are seeing on any OTT platform. We talk about movies, like a full-blown movies, or we talk about the TV shows, right? So interestingly, if you see, India is made up of entirely of movies. Can you see 92.4% people, they are into movies, and 7.64% are into TV shows, which is just almost opposite of South Korea, where almost 80% people are into TV shows and only 20% people are into movies. And where in USA, we talk about around 69 to 70% of people into movies and around 30% of people into TV shows. So again, a very interesting information where we try to understand how exactly things are on the Netflix ecospace. And the reason why you can also observe this, perhaps Bollywood is a big business. And yes, so this Bollywood industry, the main focus of this industry here on the Netflix is basically on the movies and not on the TV shows. On the South Korea, you might be seeing it's almost entirely on the TV shows. The South Korean content is prominently focused on the TV shows and not on the respective movies. Yes, so there could be multiple reasons. So with the help of these insights, what happens is, so these are few sample of analysis which is pretty much available and which is pretty much taken as a reference also. And this is the similar set of analysis which generally Netflix looks at, and it tries to capture the region-wise respective patterns and the usages and the trends of these respective users, which eventually helps understand what are the sentiments of my users, and according to that, Netflix use or looks for the content. Again, so this is fine. So we've already studied this. So top 10 countries based on the movie and the TV show split. So we've already studied this. So then we talk about, again, interesting things. So we talk about target ages, proportion of total content by country. So on the target contents based on the respective users, what is the percentages of content respective to each of my target audiences? So kids, older kids, teens, and adults. Can you see this? Interestingly, for India, 6% of my content is primarily for teens. Interestingly, so the content also on Netflix is designed in such a way that it has to cater a certain set of its target audience. So here, the Netflix content, if you could see, is primarily focused towards the teens. And if you could compare it with the USA and the UK, we have 46%, 53%, and 47%, and respectively for other countries as well, 80%, 76%, 55%. Can you see? Adults. So yes, the kind of market, the kind of ecosystem you are in, you have to always modify your business. And that is the reason why I told you there is a reason why Netflix has launched this 149 or 199 rupees plan for mobile only, because a lot of the users are basically teens who are focusing on the content and who have the major access on their mobile phones, right? So that is the reason why, depending on the market, if we don't have such information, how do you think I can take a business decision on top of that? It is practically impossible for me, right? So interestingly, I need to really understand what my market is, and that's what Netflix is trying to do. That's what each and every single minute information is getting captured, and respective to its audiences, respective to its people in its own respective region and the ecosystem, Netflix is trying to optimize the contents, optimize the deliveries, and target the right audience according to its business. And if you could clearly see in Indian market, contrastingly, if you could see, 56% of my content, more than half of my content, is targeted towards teens, right? And also if you look at the other contents like kids and the older kids, so in Indian market, only of the content is for kids, while for other countries like USA, 9%, 15%. So here you can see approximately closing to 10 to 15% of my content is towards kids. So maybe in Indian market, kids are still focused on some other platforms like YouTube or YouTube Kids, not prominently towards Netflix. But yes, in USA, in the UK, in Canada, there are kids are still using Netflix. So the content, the viewership of this kids content in these countries are still comparatively very high, right? So accordingly, depending on the requirement, depending on the business, Netflix optimizes its content accordingly. And just understand the impact of it. This is one of the very short, very small kind of analysis which I'm trying to show it to you. So likewise, I could have n different parameters, n different things which I should be looking at. And that is exactly what when I say capturing the smallest information. I gave you one very small example of, whether at what time you are pausing or what time you are rewinding your content. Likewise, your every single minute behavior is getting captured from the platform. And that is where Netflix is able to leverage those information and provide you the respective information which is needed. Right? So that is where some of the very interesting use cases comes into picture. Then we talk about, so when I talk about the problem statement, yes, recommendation would be one of the very prime problem statements which Netflix is working on. But if you could realize the whole ecosystem, it's not only about applying some ML algorithm, it's about the entire journey of my problem statement, from where the first step would be the collection phase. How I am collecting the information, how am I generating the data? And that is where the smallest of my information is also getting captured. There is some sort of mechanism where I'm trying to capture every single information, doing a detailed analysis, the exploratory data analysis, that's what we talk about on each of my information. And after finding the respective potential patterns and the relationships, now I'm trying to come up with a proper solution, maybe a product or maybe a recommendation for a user, where the user connects with that recommendation. It's very easy to give a recommendation. I do have an ML algorithm. If you run it, it'll give you the recommendations. But if you do not have the right set of data to feed into my machine learning process, and that is where the recommendations, it loses the personalization touch. Netflix focuses most on giving you the personalized recommendation, where the personalized is really taken into consideration by capturing the smallest to smallest of your patterns and your behavior from the platform. One potential problem. Second potential problem, targeting the right audience, right? Targeting the right audience, as we were talking about, which user has the highest probability to converge. And if I'm signing up any user for a trial phase, what should I provide? What should I give to this user so that we have the highest conversion probability? Right? Again, we talk about customer segmentation. Again, we talk about some sort of product mapping. Again, we talk about certain lucrative offers which we give to the users, coming up with some really fancy subscription plans respective to regions, respective to usages. That's where again Netflix insights or the analysis teams comes into picture. And once these users are signed up, how Netflix is going to retain them, having the highest retention rate, as I was talking about, 90%. How does Netflix achieve this 90% of retention rate? Completely backed by the data, understanding my user behavior, flagging the people if at all there is anyone who is trying to move out, give them some really fancy things, trying to understand the intent, trying to understand the pattern, the behavior of its users. That's the plus of the Netflix as a platform. And that is where it has an edge compared to other platforms. So likewise, we just discussed about few of the problem statements, few of the things, how Netflix uses data for its business, but these are not the only cases, guys. We just talked about 2-3 of them, but likewise, Netflix as a platform, it does leverage multiple such different problem statements, leverages the data which it has to solve n different problem statements inside, and giving you at the end the best user experience. So end objective for any problem statement is to have the best user experience. And if the user experience is really top notch, that is where the customer will be with Netflix. And that is what Netflix looks at, guys. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you are able to connect with what I wanted to demonstrate on the Netflix part. So guys, with this, I'm pretty much done of what I wanted to communicate today. So we prominently discussed about what is Netflix, how Netflix leverages data, what are some really cool insights pattern which we have seen in the current times, and how this information is helping Netflix take some really meaningful business decisions backed by these data points. Cool. So with this, guys, I'm done. Any questions? It's pretty much a live session, so we'll be more than happy to take up your questions in the live chat. If there's anything, please feel free to put up, or we are good to close. I hope that totally makes sense to you. So Netflix is one of those use cases which is very prominently floating around, and we talk about how Netflix as an industry uses data for its business. But likewise, we are also going to talk about Uber as an organization in our next video. So we'll be discussing about how now Uber uses these data for its business, and then we're going to be seeing that as well. Cool. Yes, Shubham, I'm pretty much on LinkedIn as well. Cool, great. So I hope that makes sense, but unfortunately I won't be able to share my personal details here, but I'm always available. You can always reach out to me on the chat. Great. Any questions, guys? Anything which you want me to answer? Yes, absolutely, Shubham. As per the genres, we can also target the audience. That's where we talk about the user mapping. That's where we talk about the product mapping, right? So when I talk about genre, yes, the respectively, a particular user will be falling under a group of users who are watching genre 1, right? So yes, product to product mapping, user to product mapping, user to user mapping. So all of these can pretty much be leveraged, and based on this, we can find out what kind of content I need to deliver and what kind of mapping I can have from these respective things. Cool. Great. I hope that makes sense. Any further questions, guys? Cool. If not, so thank you so much. It was really pleasure talking to everybody here. Thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. So with this, let's wrap up today. We're gonna meet the other day, the next day now. So we with another use case, and we will be talking about Uber. That's what pretty much the agenda is. Next class is Shubham. We will be covering Uber. That's another use case, Uber use case, and that's pretty much what I am looking at. But if you have any specific thing which you want me to ask, which you want me to tell, please let me know. I can try to cover that. But as per the agenda, I will be covering Uber as my next one of the use cases from the industrial use cases perspective. Hope that makes sense. So, and guys, there is always a lag of around 15-20 seconds in the live video. So you might see a delay of 15-20 seconds me to answer your question, because that's what the standard delay is. So please be patient if you're asking any question. So I might be 15 to 20 seconds delay responding that. Zomato, yes, definitely. Why not? We can take that. So let's see if I can add that up. Thank you so much for that feedback. So I'll try to back that up as well. Hey Vartika, thank you so much. Cool guys, great. So thank you so much. It was really pleasure talking to you always. So let's connect again the next day, and I'll come up with Uber use case for now. I've taken the feedback from Shubham for Zomato, and let's see if we can cover that as well. Cool guys, thank you so much. See you. Bye bye.